Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to yet another series. I'm your host, Silly McGooserton, and this is going to be the Planet Coaster series, Avaroth's Keep. We just started out here with a nice cinematic view of what we've built in this very first episode. This is the coaster that the park was centered around. This is what we construct. I hope that everybody had a happy holiday, a Merry Christmas, and you had it safely and enjoyed the time with your friends and family. This is the first recording since the holiday, and it's nice to get back in front of the computer and do something. So I know I have a lot of series going on at the same time, and we're going to get to all of them. I'm not exactly sure what kind of time frame we're going to do them in. Might just do them as they come, but I had this idea while I was on vacation, and when I got back, I had to put it in to reality. So basically, this is all going to be a lot of time-lapse stuff. We'll do some cinematic shots of the various coasters and rides that we do, as well as some point-of-view kind of stuff. But the basis for this series is a medieval sort of park, if you will. You know, stuff that's mixed with stone and wood and castles and things like that. But my main idea that I had when coming up with this park, as you can see that I'm building right here, is this old style kind of wooden coaster. I had to use a mixed coaster, that way I could do some sort of inversions, because that was this main idea that I had, was that when you first walk into the park, before you even get to the ticket counters, you walk over this almost drawbridge type of walkway over a big hole that has some water in it, and around the walkway, is almost this looping, twisting, bending, turning kind of coaster track. So as soon as you walk in, the coasters just whoosh right over you and around you. And I think that's a really neat concept, and that was one of the main concepts that I had when I was thinking about this park. Because, you know, as a creator, as a designer, as a game player, when you're not able to be in a place where you can play some of the games that you love playing, or, you're always thinking about different ideas and different creations and different things that you can do. So when, I was away for 6 days, so when I finally got back, I was like, I've been thinking about this, I've got to try it. So basically spawned another series. I'm going to get back to the other series that I was working on, so don't fret about that, but this one is going to be a fun one to do alongside of those as well. So, if you like the video, feel free to click like, leave a comment if you want. Don't forget to subscribe, that way you know when there's new videos out. And I appreciate the support. The channel's new, and I hope that we can grow it to have a little bigger audience. And if not, that's fine too, because it's all just for fun, and I am enjoying sharing all these different series with you. So if you see here in the time lapse, I'm just kind of tweaking the coaster and messing with different parts of it, because the fear rating for my taste was a little bit high. I think it was around 7.3. For me, that's a little bit high. I usually like to keep all the excitement and the fear and the nausea ratings. I like to keep all of those in the green, because that's really what the guests of the park want. So for me, it's a little high. You know, if it comes to the point where the guests aren't really liking it, aren't getting on the ride, then we may go back and tweak a little bit. That main looping, twisting part around the path there is the main part that has a little bit too much fear involved in it. So if we need to, at some point in one of the next episodes, we may have to go back and adjust that a little bit. But I really like the way that the coaster itself turned out. I'm pretty happy with it. I haven't done too much in the way of landscape around it yet, or anything like that. I did do a little bit of terraforming and terrain editing, and I added some water and some stuff like that. But the main thing was kind of getting this coaster started. So we'll have to definitely go back in there and really fill out that terrain with some trees and bushes and rocks and things like that. But like I said, the main thing was getting this coaster to how I liked it, with that main idea around the entrance there. And I built that big hill up on the right, so I eventually am going to have to path up there, which I believe I did in this episode. You can see I kind of made the path break off into a Y in the beginning with a couple of different ticket gates. That was another idea I had. I'm not sure if we'll end up keeping that. I do kind of like the idea of having I kind of want to build a big building there and have both of the ticket booths be able to allow people in on two different sides of the park. So that's going to be something that we're going to have to add in a little bit later, because I didn't have quite enough time to get to that. If you're a player of the game, you know how this game can be. You start one thing and then you start doing something else, and next thing you know, you spent hours doing something you hadn't really planned on doing. So, it's all in good fun, and this is a pretty fun episode to do. I wanted to do a lot of things that had rock and stone, so I'm using the cobblestone, I believe, paths in this one. I want to mix in some wood elements as well. I'm not sure what else we're going to do with this hill. We may go back and do a little bit more terraforming, but I like the idea of the coaster starting a bit higher and almost immediately having some sort of dip or drop. We kind of got that effect. It does dip a little bit before it just gets a little bit of a chain lift, and then it dives down into that loop. But like I said, all of this we may go back and do a little bit of tweaking here and there. I'm not exactly sure. We're just kind of just going with an idea. I didn't really look at any kind of castle references or anything. I wasn't even sure I was going to do some sort of exact castle theming with this coaster station, but that's kind of what it turned out to be. I'm fairly happy with the way it turned out. It's not perfect. Nothing is really perfect unless you're a professional at this game, like, someone like Silver Red or someone like that. He does some really meticulous stuff, which is awesome. I'm not really that kind of person, so I kind of do what I do, and it just turns out how it is. We're by no means done with this by the end of the episode, but we do get a pretty good head start for one episode. You'll see me clicking through a lot of different pieces. I wasn't super familiar with the castle and stone theming, and exactly in my mind what I was building. I was kind of just going freeform with everything, and I kind of just liked the way things were fitting around the coaster station. So you'll see me just kind of clicking through some different elements and seeing where they fit and how they fit, and what I could add here and there. So I'm just kind of finishing off the coaster station. I like the idea that the coaster's, fully enclosed in its station, kind of some sort of house that it can, leave and come back to. And you just see me here doing a little point of view test just to kind of get the feel for how I, did during the building of the coaster. I added that little lake there around that big overbanked curve. And like I said, just kind of go with the flow. So after I built that coaster station, I felt that the pathway here, the queue line, needed some sort of way to tie it in with the coaster station. So I went and I grabbed some walls and I kind of threw up some walls as a base around there. Um, like I said, it's not perfect, but I got it fairly much how I wanted it to be. We may go and change a little bit with that later because I wasn't fully happy with the way that that turned out, but it didn't turn out too bad. I like the idea of the coaster dipping and diving and going through a bunch of different building elements as well. I've always thought that that was kind of a cool thing for a coaster to do. If you've ever ridden a coaster that's gone through some sort of tunnel or building or element like that, that's always kind of a cool thing that you don't really expect the first time you ride the ride. And then every time you ride it thereafter, you're waiting for that element to come up in the track. You're excited for that part of the track. So we may go and add some sort of building element into other parts of the coaster. I'm not exactly sure. But for now, we didn't do that. We just basically concentrated on the coaster station itself, creating this path to get up there for the people to get to the queue line, and then the people who are exiting the ride to be able to get back as well. I haven't yet set the park to be open, so that's why you don't see any guests in there currently. I'm going to do that once I get a few more elements built. I didn't want a bunch of people just cramming into the walkways just with only one thing in the park to do. So once we get a few shops or a couple more rides or something, then I'll open it up, allow people to come in and kind of test things out. And that's where we'll check to see if the fear rating of this ride was a little bit too high. Because like I said before, it was 7.3, which is a little bit on the higher side. So you see me here going in and just trying to mess with some of these castle elements because this building kind of took on the, I don't know what you want to call it, the element of being some sort of castle kind of building. So I added on a little bit of castle spires and the kind of castle top wall motif. And I thought it was pretty cool looking. It was pretty interesting. And I might have done some things differently looking back on it because, like I said, this was the first time I really used these stone castle theming pieces. But I liked what I was doing here, so I just kind of kept going at it, trying stuff here and there, and then just fixing a few little pieces that I kind of, didn't really care for all that much or care for how I placed them. So I just went back and I, did some things like that. Added on this cool little roof. I kind of wanted to do some sort of, my idea was I had an idea where I was going to build almost like a castle tower that you might see archers on or guarding or shooting off of. And after I built the roof, I was kind of wondering if I could get kind of that sort of effect with these different pieces here. But as you can see, I just kind of ended up getting rid of that idea because it didn't really fit the building, I felt. If those original pieces that you saw me put on the roof there, if I was able to change the color of those, I may have gone with that and tried to somehow, make that work on the top of the roof. But since I wasn't able to change the color, I just kind of nixed that idea because I wasn't really, digging the way that those things looked up there. So now I felt that the castle building needed some more castle theming. It was just basically a big box at this point, and it looked a little bland. So I decided to go in and add some of these castle windows and door kind of elements. And there's a lot of options for the castle windows and doors. More than I thought there would be, and they were pretty cool. I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do with them, so I just kind of started placing them on the building and was going to see how I like them in certain particular areas. And I came up with something that was fairly interesting. I thought it gave the building a little bit more of interest to the eye than just some big plain boxy building that you might, see. That's one thing that I usually try to do is if I create a building, I try not to just leave it bland looking because anyone can create a sort of square or rectangle, plain building. It's actually really easy to do in this game, so it wasn't really, I never try to leave something like that. I always try to deck it out in some scenery items or some various building items. And like I said, this is nowhere near complete, but we got a good start on what we're trying to achieve with this park, Avaroth's Keep. So you see I added in a little bit of a trellis there off to the side just to give that queue line and the front of the building a little bit more of interest. I'm not exactly happy with the way that the queue path lines up in our little queue building there, but it's good enough for government work. That's what I have to say anyway. So I just, to hide a little bit of that, I just added on a little bit of wood because I really do like the wood pieces in this game, and they mix really well, I feel, with the various stone buildings. So I just kind of went in and I added some of these hanging flowers and some of the ivy and the vines going up the wall, kind of made it look a little bit more rustic, a little bit more overrun, if you will. And I think that really adds a little bit to it. It's kind of interesting. So I'll probably end up going back to some more of that, where around the building, I would say I'd probably add a little bit more of that ivy and just kind of that overgrowth kind of look and some more elements like that, because I think those little elements are really interesting. They make the building not seem as plain as it might otherwise. So I kind of just had an idea to make a little flower bed there. So I built that as well in front of our little trellised area. As far as the inside of the building, we didn't hardly touch it at all. I just threw a few lights in there just for now. But again, that's something that we're going to go in and we'll have to edit that a little bit more because, well, you don't see it a lot unless you're riding the ride. But again, I don't like to leave things like that too plain because it is a part of the park. The guests will be in there. They will see it, and they will, if we go and we ride the ride, we will see some of those things. So I don't usually overdo it too much in the buildings because, again, it's not something that you see as much. You see it for a few seconds while you're getting on and off of the ride. But other than that, everything that you see, all the visual elements are usually from afar or as you're approaching the ride. So again, I was kind of going for that feel that this coaster was the main selling point of the park. It was original to the park, and it's really what got the park started as more than just a coaster. It got the park kick-started into being an actual theme park. So you see me going in here and I am setting up a bunch of different lighting effects for the building because, again, the park is going to be dark at some point, and what's the point of having all of this nice detail and all these interesting elements if you're not going to be able to see them in the dark? So I add in some of these iron kind of hanging lanterns as well as a few torches to kind of reinforce that castle theme. I really wanted to do a little bit more of the castle theming once I got started with the building because it kind of turned out to be kind of castle-ish. So that was what I did with that. And then at night I felt like the coaster itself, you needed to see the coaster. You needed to see the girth of the coaster because it's a big, winding, twisting coaster. And like I said, it's the main selling point of the park, and it's what got the park started. So I went in with some of these various spotlights, and I kind of softened the glow of it a little bit. And then I copied them and I moved them all around to just kind of highlight various parts of the track. So not the whole thing was bright and lit up, but that it was kind of these softer lighting element effects going around different parts of the track to just kind of give it this little bit of a glow in the night. That way, when you're riding the coaster at night, you're able to see what's upcoming, you're able to see where you're going and what you're doing, and as well, walking around around the park, then you're able to see the park itself. But anyway, that's pretty much gonna do it, guys. So I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll just go ahead and leave you with a point of view of the coaster. So thanks a lot, guys. See you next time.